Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. I'm Kevin Schroeder, your host, and my co-host today is Joe Diamond. Hello. Our famous Captain Ed Mehmet is, I believe, applying for a job down at City Hall because they have a help wanted sign down at City Hall with the new mayor coming in. So our guest today is 24-year vet, retired NYPD detective, second grade, Keto Palak, and also the author of Selfish Party.
A Selfish Party.
Right. I can say that three times. Okay, I like that. So, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks
so, if you could tell our audience a little bit of your background, where you grew up, and because I know you're not from New York, so what made you become a New York City police officer, but basically where you grew up.
Yeah, so I became one of New York's transient guests here. I call myself a 24-year resident tourist of the city of New York. Graduated college in Massachusetts, grew up on the Mass border in a small town in Connecticut. And then always wanted to be a cop, started taking the tests. I went out for the LAPD. I went out for the State Department, Diplomatic Security Service, Fort Lauderdale, just applying, trying to see where you can get hired. And my last 3 credits in college actually were with Disney World doing an internship. So I'm driving up north on 95. And
well, let's rewind back to Disney World.
Yeah.
You did an internship, you said?
Yeah, that exists.
What were you doing? were you Mickey or Mickey Mouse? You know,
I think I can explain the Goofy story. Don't make me forget that one. But no, so I was going to graduate college early, and a friend of mine did the internship, and he said, Keith, you have your whole life to live. It's a great experience. So you live in kind of a typical, what do they call that community in Florida? They have a gated community, right?
Right.
And they love interns because that's where they recruit some of their employees, but also with interns, you don't have to pay a minimum wage either. So we went ahead, lived there, worked about 6 days a week. I worked in Animal Kingdom. So I won't tell you what I was wearing. I'm still getting through that. Little therapy sessions there.
So there's a lot of photos of you out there.
But so I did that, and then somehow I got a letter when I was down in Florida from the city of New York, and I don't know if it was one of my friends or that put me on a list because a lot of police departments go around recruiting. So I got that letter, and I just told Mickey Mouse, I said I got to leave a couple days early before I graduate with my Mickey Mouse degree. And then I left. I took the written test, and that was in May. And then I was in loop for Hartford, State Department. But the NYPD said, if you want to come down here, we can get you the academy in September. So it was just a really fast process. And at the time, I figured it was, living in New York and just moving and going and figuring out as I go anything was better than living at home with my parents. So just because you're 22 years old, you got to get out, And I took the job with the NYPD thinking I was going to be there for a year or two. I thought I was going to go with the feds, DSS,
and what year was this, Keith?
So I got on 2000.
Okay.
So it would have been September 2000 when I came on. And and then I figured I'd be there for a couple of years, and 24 years later, I got out, but I just fell in love with the city, being a young kid at the time.
So when you moved to the city, did you live in Manhattan?
I lived in Brooklyn, so I needed to establish residency, so back then it was like roommatefinder.com. Mm-hmm. So you just knock on the door, you go in, drive down for the day, so it'd be like a 3-hour drive for me. And at the time, I didn't care what the place looked like because I was meeting some characters, and I was like, I can't live with you. And then, so then I found a place in Bed-Stuy, and I just met the roommate. I'm like, you know what? You just seem like you have some sense. This is great. Let's do this. And then, and then I moved in. That was 2 blocks from the Mossy houses. And then
my family's from the Mossy houses.
And then I found out. Well, then it was about a month after I moved in. I'm in my academy uniform, and I have things covering it because I used to take the subway.
Otherwise, you'd be making a collar off-duty collar.
Yeah. And then as I'm walking up to the loft building, It's just spray painted "Kill Cops" on it. And I was like, this gets better and better, right? And then I'd say a few months later, I came home, and then my roommate at the time, John, decent guy, but I just see the needle on the floor, and I'm like, John, what is this? And he's just like, I had a party and I slipped. I'm like, okay. So it was heroin. I was just like, just can't have this, you know? And he goes, no, I get it. You know, I'm like, I'll look for my place, you know.
Oh, your roommate, huh?
He was my roommate,
wow.
Yeah. So,
how'd you find this roommate?
it was like online back then. And some of the guys I was meeting, it was
sketchy at best.
Sketchy, you know?
Yeah. I would say so, yeah.
So,
wow.
Pickings were slim, Kev.
Yeah. No, I know. Joe?
It's funny. So just with the cop haters, during Halloween in Bay Ridge, a friend of mine who's ex-cop, he had a house. His daughter had a house party. I won't name the street or anything. She's in high school. Some asshole puts her address online, and half of the high school showed up on the block. The cops had to clear the block. So I'm with my friend, a nice woman from Bay Ridge. She's, playing bouncer outside the house. So lots of idiot kids, right? But a young girl who's like 12 years old, for what it's worth, a white girl from the neighborhood, she's trying to bum rush my friend. And my friend's like, where you going? This party's over. And she's like, well, I got an invitation, blah, blah. And so my friend's like, there's cops here and there's going to be more cops. You need to get out of here. So the girl's like, F the police. And my friend's like, really? So all of a sudden, her friend, another girl, is like, no, we got to get out of here. But can you imagine that? This is a cop's house, and she's cursing out the cops. And
that's the world, right? Man. Today. So swinging back, so you come on the job, 2000, and you're assigned to what command?
So I got out of the academy. I think my academy was one of the longest. They went 8 months for some reason.
Really?
Yeah. And I got assigned to Chinatown.
5th Precinct?
5th Precinct, Chinatown, because I figure I'm a white guy from Connecticut, so what better place to assign me? And
Little Italy's there too, right? Chinatown.
Well, yeah, I know,
Little
but it was 2 blocks, maybe 3 back then.
Yeah.
Now it's 2. But
it's true. Yeah.
I was there for 3 months in the 5th, and then 9/11 happened, so that was kind of a.
Wake up
I didn't think I was going to be dealing with that at all.
Let's go back to 9/11. Were you working that day?
So after I moved out of my friend who had the problems apartment, I moved to Greenpoint, Brooklyn. So on that day, my roommates, I just heard them yelling, which was odd. So I got up. I think it was doing 4 to 12s back then. So I just saw the first tower drop from Greenpoint, runs alongside the East River. So I was able to see the Twin Towers from, I'd say half a block from my apartment. And it was on DuPont Street, for those that know. There's a playground there, so it's very open. And I saw the first tower go down. And I remember just looking across the street. And it's like, that's it. I got to pack a quick go bag. And so I said, guys, I'll see you when I see you. I went in the apartment, backpack, threw some clothes in there. And then I knew to go to the 9-4 precinct. So I ran down the block, and there was this Chinese laundry service in a van. So I figured I'd be like Kojak or something, right? So I said, I tinned him, I showed my shield, and I said, you need to drive me to the police station. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And I hop in the car, and we drive about 2 blocks, and he stops. And he gets out of the car. I said, what are you doing? We got to go to the police station. He's like, I have to make the delivery. So I was like, well, this isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
So out the car I went.
Express.
Yeah. And then I ran to the 9-4, and then the desk sergeant there put me with a cop from the 2-8, which is in Harlem. And they sent us to a natural gas factory.
So you went to the 9-4 in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You didn't go to your command. You went to 9-4.
I was there at that plant because it was great because they had the sense of soft targets immediately after what's that secondary targets. Mm-hmm. So that was their concern. So they sent us there. And then after like 2-3 hours, they dismissed us from there. And that cop, who I've never seen again, I don't even remember his name, and we drove over. I remember we crossed one of the bridges, and he dropped me off at the 5th, and he went to Harlem. And then the day started.
Now, do you remember some of your assignments during 9/11?
Yeah, so the 5th Precinct is just south of Canal Street on Elizabeth. So we were there all the time. And
Right, in that zone.
In that zone, yeah. And for those that don't know, when you sign up for the 9/11 health screening monitoring, anything south of Canal counts. So we've lost some people already from the 5th, from 9/11, related cancers. But from there, we just went straight to mainly security. Some of us were digging. Some of us just did basic security. And talk about, a day or even a month. Remember, the crime just dropped.
Yeah. Sure.
And it was, so you didn't need that many sectors out, which was great in a sense, because then we could use resources down there. And the Chinatown community was great. I mean, we had to turn food away.
A lot of Chinese food.
Like just weeks
What about
and
the
weeks
Italian
of food.
There's no Italian food there?
We ate everything. They brought it, we ate it. But it was great. That was a great.
Everybody. That's
community.
when everyone loved the cops. And,
Yeah.
I was just you were talking earlier. I was on the BQE 9/11, 9 in the morning. I was listening to the Howard Stern show, and I remember Howard Stern broke in with the news. He was doing a bit, and then all of a sudden he's like, "I have to change topics now. Apparently a plane has hit the Trade Center," and I was like, I mean, we're all in a state of shock. But
Yeah.
I called my mom in Vegas, by the way. So I'm like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "What happened?" It's like 6 in my sleep. I'm like, "Mom."
We so you're now in the 5th Precinct.
Yep.
Patrol uniform, and then where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so I was in uniform for maybe a year and a half, and then I was always wanted to be more proactive. Writing tickets weren't my thing, so it didn't take me long to go to a plainclothes unit, and I worked under Ed Mangan, who's he retired lieutenant, but he was a street crime cop. And he became a sergeant in the 5th. So I worked under him, and then I worked under Brian Crimmins. He was a Brooklyn cop.
Did you know a sergeant there? I think he was a sergeant down there, Mike Wagner.
I know
I
the
think
name.
he passed away from 9/11 as well.
Yes, he was assigned there, not when I was there.
Okay.
But
yeah.
yes, I remember the name.
I knew him briefly, and
Yeah.
I never knew he passed from 9/11, but I guess after the fact.
Yeah.
Years later, like a lot of other people are dying every day from 9/11.
Yeah, Randy Van Name, he passed about a
Yep.
year ago.
Yep. Too many.
Yep.
But I'm sorry. So now you're
Oh, then I was in anti-crime for a few years.
5th Precinct anti-crime
In
or
the 5th.
Borough?
Yep.
Okay.
And then I went to borough crime for a year, which was great because we had the run of, Manhattan.
Where'd you turn out of?
So that we turned out of the Deuce, 42nd Street, the old
Midtown. Well,
task force.
before that it was Midtown North Precinct.
Yes.
From they were renovating. I'll never forget it. They were renovating Midtown North Precinct, the original one on 54th Street.
Yeah.
And I think it took about 7 years. And we had a joke, Trump could put a building up in 2 months, and we're still waiting for a renovation.
Didn't you guys turn out of trailers at one time too?
We did. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
trailers. And then we turned out like the precinct, where there was trailers in back of the precinct. The precinct is where you process the arrest. But then our lockers, where we changed every day for roll call, was John Jay.
Okay.
So we had 3 different locations. John Jay, the trailers.
Well, they didn't have
and
campers, Kev. It wasn't that bad, right?
Yeah, no, true.
Quonset, the
place.
Quonset huts.
Yeah, but it was crazy. So that was roll call was never on time, which was great because we were never on time.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. But we were there for a bunch of years on 42nd Street, and some good times there.
Yeah.
And we moved back to 54th Street.
I'm sure on 42nd Street back in the day.
But okay, so you go to Task Force, which is 42nd Street.
Yeah.
Well, not Task Force. You go to
Borough crime.
Borough crime.
Yeah. Which is what they started calling street crime afterwards.
And then, so was it Manhattan South or the whole borough?
It was Manhattan South.
Manhattan South, okay. And then you get promoted detective there?
No, so I went from borough crime, and then I had 7 years on. I went to Detective Bureau, got assigned to Midtown North, where you and I met. And, and that's where I got my shield.
In Midtown North?
In Midtown North.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had before you got there.
No, that was for a lot of the old street crime guys.
Yeah.
They gave that
Right,
shield out
yes,
in the late
borough crime,
90s.
Yeah. So you came to Midtown North Precinct Detective Squad, which I think is a great squad, as you know.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun there. You were on my team.
Sure.
And speaking of which, let's touch on the case that you had there. You had a homicide, amongst many cases you had there. A homicide in the Essex house.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So I'll tell you my version. And my version is, I think it was a Sunday or Saturday morning. We get a call to respond to someone unconscious with basically a knife to their neck and a jump rope around their neck as well. And when we got there, everyone's doing their thing. All the detectives and the cops are doing their thing. And I happened to be talking to, I believe it was a manager of the hotel. And one of the first common sense things is, who lives here and can we do an integrity of the lock to see who came in, And then they said, okay, it's number 442. I said, well, who's 442? They said, Mary, I forget the name, Maria, whatever. And I said, Maria, you went in that room at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning? And again, I'm just being a little vague, I'm sure. And she says, no, our manager came in and he asked me if I could use my key, and he used my key. Oh, Jose, whatever his name was. Or where's Jose, or where's Tom, or where is he? Oh, he went home sick. I believe at that point, that's when you, me, I think Steve Gurniak and Pat Benellen, four of us, jumped in a car, an unmarked car. We went up to the Bronx at his address because we got his address from the hotel, and knocked on the door, and there he was with his family. I'll never forget. Were you wearing those clothes today? No, I was wearing those clothes. So we went up to his house in the Bronx, okay, and I believe two of us stayed downstairs. I know I went up. I'm not sure who. I forget who I was with upstairs. Maybe it was you.
It was Pat and myself.
Okay.
I was up there.
And maybe Steve stayed downstairs just in case the guy came out the window, if he was even home. Knock on the door. Wife answers the door. The kids are in the background. He's in the background. We split everybody up and then start asking our questions. That's what we do, right? But one of the questions I did ask the guy was, I asked him actually, did you go to work today? Yeah, what happened? I wasn't feeling well. I came home. Okay. Those clothes you were wearing? No. Oh, where are the clothes? And he points to the floor, and his clothes, I think it was jeans or whatever, with blood on it. Maybe his shirt as well. And then we just asked him the rest of his history. Great case. Quito Palic was the arresting officer. Did a great case on it. Homicide helped out as well. But that's my memory of it. So it turns out, well, Keith could elaborate.
Yeah.
He's the arresting officer. Yeah. So it turns out that it was the perpetrator, in fact, the murderer, the guy who killed this woman, and you could take it from there.
Yeah, so I remember that morning, it was one of those, the phone was ringing. I think I got there at like 7:59, and we're supposed to start at 8 o'clock, so when the phone's ringing early, you're kind of like, we'll see how this one goes.
7:59, we probably weren't there yet. That Pat and I were probably not.
I was only up in that for a couple of years in the squad, so I was definitely up, by 8 o'clock. But I picked up the phone, and I remember it must have been a rookie cop. They must have told him to call the squad because he says, we have a DOA here at Central Park South, but this one seems suspicious. And I said, what makes it suspicious? And he goes, well, she has a knife through her throat, and she has something wrapped around her, And I said, that's a homicide. We'll be right over. We'll come over for this one, right?
So then you had to wake everybody up, put your suit and tie on, and then let's rock and roll.
But yeah, we went over there, and it was one of those things where the perp, it was odd because if I remember correctly, the perp was in his late 30s, had no criminal record. He was a manager and married two beautiful girls, and the demons, something happened that day. He was out drinking with a couple friends, and he decided to show up early. I'm saying he should have been there in the morning. He showed up a few hours early. He actually got a ticket from a transit cop for drinking alcohol on the subway going down, and then asked a manager for a key card, which is a no-no, and did what he did and went home. And when we went up to his apartment in the Bronx, I remember he was saying, oh, come here, girls. And he wanted to kiss him because he knew, he wanted to kiss him goodbye. And then went to kiss his wife, and his wife pulled away.
Horrible.
And you just were like, this is, Not that it was done, but there wasn't a whole lot of doubt.
How much time did he get?
He went away for a bit. I want to say he did like a 20. I think he may still very well still be in.
I was just saying, how long ago was that? That
Yeah.
was, 20 years ago almost.
Yeah.
You know?
He went away for a bit. And just the whole thing was odd, given his trajectory in life, and then just
what I remember of it
drop.
from what I remember is because me and Pat dealt with her brother, the deceased brother, driving around. Pat got into we got hit by a car. We got into an accident that day. But anyway, things got worse. But it turns out that Pat Donnell and myself, we were driving around the victim's brother, trying to get arrangements going on and everything that needed to be taken care of, identify the body, etc. I believe she was from Dubai. I believe she was right.
She rang the bell at Wall Street. She was in finance, and that was her residence.
Big to do,
hotel.
and very pretty woman for what they said. I remember, and I believe he had a crush on her, liked her, and he kept asking her. The perpetrator, the guy who killed her, kept asking her out, and of course it was no. Stayed friendly. I guess this one night, like you said, he had the drink on, and then he just went in and did his thing, Shame.
Crazy.
Shame. Yeah. But good case you did. Good case on that. Good arrest, good case.
Yeah, we had fun on that one.
Yeah, we did.
Rock and roll.
From a work perspective,
Yeah. Rock and roll. Yeah, including a car accident. We got hit.
Shit happens.
We got like T-boned on Park Avenue. But anyway, same day, all in one. But I'm sorry. So now Midtown North Squad, you did all your cases and all that, and now from there, where do you go?
So it was in 2014. I got transferred to the Manhattan DA's office. I was there for 10 years, and at first when I got there, it was just getting the mix. That was great because, I like to do different things, and I don't like being stuck doing the same thing again and again. So sometimes you fly out to pick up a prisoner on a warrant in Seattle or. Go ahead.
Keith, I'm sorry. If you could just tell our audience, what does the Manhattan District Attorney's Office investigators do? I should say Detective Squad does.
Sure. So the Manhattan DA's Detective Squad started under, was it Hogan or, no, who was the guy before him?
Before Hogan?
Yeah, Dewey. Okay. Started under Thomas Dewey because he needed trusted investigators to, in essence, the main purpose was to go after the mob. And so he needed his own personnel, but he needed full control over them.
Right.
Yeah. So, the Manhattan DA's Detective Squad was started under Thomas Dewey. That would probably have been in the 30s, 40s, around there. Yeah. And the purpose of it was to give the district attorney his own detectives to do investigations, primarily to take down the mob at the time. That grew to, I've heard 50, 60, 70 detectives. And over time, the Manhattan DA's office started hiring their own investigators. And then so you had the number of detectives in the Manhattan DA's office that were NYPD detectives start diminishing, and then the increase of the Manhattan DA's own investigators. But when I got there in 2014, I think we had about 15 to 18 detectives there, plus supervisory personnel. And our goal then was it was a lot of assisting DAs. Occasionally we'd have to go get prisoners that the DAs wanted that were in custody throughout the country, which is fun because it broke it up. But then you could also just work different interesting cases. I had a $3 million antiquity case where they repurposed legitimate South American currency. This is back in the colonial period. And if you had a certain stamp on it by if I use the wrong term, forgive me, but like an authenticator. Mm-hmm. So there's only a few authenticators back in the colonial period that could do this. So you'd stamp the coin. Now, if you were to buy that coin today, or whatever it was, 7, 8 years ago, that coin would be $1,000. But if you had the stamp, it would be $10,000 because now it would be an American colonial currency. And back then you had various currencies throughout the colonial, the 13 states, right?
So, Keith, can you explain to our audience what was the value of the
So the coin, the original coin from the 1700s that was used in South America, currently approximately would have a value of $1,000. But if the same coin had an authenticated stamp, which now made it a colonial currency, the value of that would be roughly $10,000. So there was someone in the Diamond District was selling these coins, and he got a buyer for about a few $100,000 at least. Then what we were able to do was establish that they were fake because these coins were being authenticated by professionals in the coin business, if you would. So they were already shown to be legitimate, but upon further evaluation, we found out that these are too many of these coins were in circulation. So now it's suspicious. So let's take another look at it. Now the authenticator had to admit that they were wrong, and what they did, they made an error. In good judgment, it wasn't malicious. It was just happenstance, right? It was by accident. And so that led us to the investigation, and then we implemented an undercover, and they did the buy, filmed the target. Person was arrested. We feel there was probably some sort of Russian mafia backing, but he clammed up. He didn't really want to talk, but we were able to stop that. And we estimated, along with the initial authenticators, it would have been about, this guy was probably dealing with $3 million out there.
When you say Diamond District, you're talking about 47th Street.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Correct. Because not only diamonds do they deal with, but also, certain antiquities.
Right. Well, that's not surprising. On 47th Street. No, being in Midtown North Precinct, so many cases on 47th Street.
Yeah.
A lot of good people there, but there's a lot of cases as well.
Sure, absolutely.
I think there's more guns and weapons on that block than in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy. You know, between the off-duty, on-duty, who's licensed, who's not, it's, good guys, bad guys. Crazy, that block is unbelievable.
Of course, yeah.
And there's a movie out with Adam Sandler.
Great.
Pretty accurate to a certain degree, you know what I mean? But, so can you talk, that's a very interesting case. Can you tell our audience another case?
Sure. So another case was looking at a couple cold cases, and one of them we were able to establish. And again, this is just me at the time being curious and asking questions and getting the right people on the phone, because my scientific background is you don't want to know about it. But so sitting down with at the ME's office with the anthropologist, and trying to identify remains that weren't identified for decades. And so we were able to, with that case, to use an anthropologist and utilizing one of the first cases, if not one of the first case of phenotyping, which is you take the teeth, the hair and bone, and you are able to analyze it, and they're able to see based on water consumption, in essence, the idea is where this person grew up, and you can get that through the bone. The hair, however long your hair is, that could be a metric. So in this case, a female, I think she had like shoulder length hair. So that's X amount of months to grow that typically. And then the teeth as well. So I'm sorry. So it would have been the teeth would have been next. Dental. And then the hair, because the hair was the shortest amount. So you get this idea of where this person was, in a sense, born, where they were raised most of their life, and then the hair sample was different from the other two. And how you'd view it would be on a map of the country, and it almost represented the jet stream, which was very unique. That was the first thing I noticed. And then the last 6 months of her life, again, based on the hair, it changed. So we were thinking, this is Minnesota Avenue, I think they called it back in the 80s. So she probably came here on a bus,
right,
and then went to
Greyhound,
prostitution,
right,
judging by the clothing and that type of thing.
Right,
and probably was I'm sorry, may have been a prostitute, judging by the clothing, may not have been. And then all that was so much fun just learning that for me.
Tell us about your science back. Did you study forensics in college?
Oh, no. I
loved
went ahead and we were trying to figure out how to identify these bones. And talking to the anthropologist, and we had a Danny investigator too. And I said, what aren't we doing with all this scientific, technology, and it changes so fast, like the IT world we live in.
Yep.
I said, is there something that we can do that's different, that's new from the technological, scientific standpoint? And it was the anthropologist, sure wasn't Keith, but he said, there's this new company out in Utah that's doing this, and if the DA's office is willing to write the check, and then so from there, again, working with the Danny investigator, they backed it, and that's what started that. I think that was the first case using that phenotyping.
So she was able to be identified?
No. We were able to find out that she was new to the geographical area. What happened was the way she was decomposed, it was a horrible chance to get viable DNA for analysis. And eventually, I believe she was ID'd. But that case was interesting from the scientific point of view. Using that new science to kind of sit there and say, this is when she came to New York. It was different. She was a short timer. She had to have been new to the area. Maybe she was used as a prostitute. So that's kind of where that case went. And then I stopped working that hit a dead end. And I think there was, again, from science, developments and DNA analysis. And then they were able to get a finer sample and link that to many of these DNA databases that we have in the private sector.
Right.
And identify her that way.
If the district attorney's office is willing to pay for it.
Yeah, a lot of these cold cases, I'm realizing it comes down to funding.
Yeah. Exactly.
And grant money. That's the cold, hard, unfortunate truth with it.
Yeah. Now, in the DA's office, you have the detective squad, which is you guys, and then you have the investigators, which is mostly retired guys, right? So what's the difference of what the detective squad does versus the investigators for the Manhattan DA's office?
Sure. When I first got there, it was based on relationships. So if you had a great relationship with the DA, a lot of times you could pull that on. As the Manhattan DA's office, that Danny investigator unit grew, certain confidential cases they would take, and that would be separate from us. But the NYPD detectives, a lot of our work was just self-initiated.
How did the investigators get along with the squad detectives?
I mean, it's like anything else, Kev. It's the retired detectives that went to Danny investigators, they were very easy to get along with. The other side, if you would, I got along with most of them. A lot of them have their own units. They just, stay in their office. They do their thing. But for the most part, I would say we got along.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to, now you have a book that was just published. You're a writer. Okay, you're an author of Selfish Party.
Correct.
Tell us about the book.
So,
what made you want to write this book, and let's talk about the book.
Sure. So as a kid growing up, I always wanted to be a cop, and the other thing was being a writer. So I've been very spoiled. I've been very
squad, you're a writer.
I went ahead and it was a couple of years ago, and we all see it, the polarization that's happening in this country. And the solution, I mean, people talk about a revolution, and the last time there was a revolution was in 1776. So we're not having that, odds are, but people love to talk about it. So it just needs to be a pivot. And if you look at other democracies in Europe and whatnot, they have additional political parties. It's not the duopoly we have now. And so the nice thing with fiction is you could write what you want about. And I went ahead, and it's about a Julian Hernandez is the former mayor of the city of Hartford in Connecticut, gets elected governor. It's a small state, and the book discusses the funding that is met because it's required in order to compete with the Republicans and the Democrats. And so it gives a viable option for other people, and it's the moderate party. It's down the road. It's not as polarized as the other two, so it kind of, you are able to get this balance, and we're able to move forward with our country and with a more level head. But it's all backed by the same power brokers as the Republicans and the Democrats. It was just another opportunity for people to maintain the country and keep it stable, because that's what keeps us prosperous. Capitalism is what gives us all of the benefits we've had, in this country.
The new mayor might have something to say about it.
So, do you have any questions for Keith? I know you love politics, Joe.
Yeah, enough with politics, but so you're a writer. I've been a writer. It's funny because my background also, my uncle was a cop. He was a really cop, and I wanted to be a cop when I grew up. I didn't become a cop, but I'm also a writer. So my uncle, he used to he had his notepad, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Same thing.
Joe's going to write my book someday, but I don't know.
I'm trying to for years, but
yeah, wait till some other things, some other
first.
moving parts move aside.
A lot of interesting stuff.
Good stuff. So Keith, I do have one last question. You worked under Cy Vance, and
Yes.
you worked under Bragg.
Correct. So, yeah, I mean, the thing with that
Nothing to
assignment,
boast about.
it's apolitical, truth be told. I didn't vote for the Manhattan DA in the last election because I was assigned to his executive protection detail. I take that as a conflict of interest. I looked at it kind of, I think a lot of people would probably digest it in the sense of viewing a Secret Service agent, and that's your job.
Exactly, yeah.
So he's entitled to all the protection and family.
he is, yeah.
He was elected to office. That was the job, and when, especially from a work perversion standpoint, if you would,
Right.
I was asked to join the executive protection detail for Cyrus Vance. It wasn't something I was pining for, looking after. I did it part-time, which was great for me. And then when the current DA was elected, we had to build it up to a protection detail given the circumstances. I got to be honest, that part was a lot of fun. That detail was a protection detail, and it was busier than I was told from our intel division that it is the busiest detail. When you compare it to all the other ones combined, it was the busiest detail. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to see it tapering off as we move on past the trial.
So, exactly. So, I'll ask you one last question in a different way. How is morale with the detectives and the investigators under Cy Vance versus Bragg?
As many units in the NYPD have experienced, though, that 15 to 18 detective that we had in that office is greatly diminished. I think it's at 5 now.
Yeah, there's nobody there.
There's no one there.
Is
So
that all
they're
the boroughs too, or just Manhattan? Like Queens DA's office?
I think so many units in the NYPD are suffering from human resources, just not having the personnel to deal with things. And I think now they're running around so much that you get up and go and you deal with it. That's all it is.
Well, Keith, thank you very much for being here today. I know you had
Thanks,
to come into
Kevin.
the city. You're not in the city much anymore.
No.
I'd like to thank Joe Diamond for sitting in for
Anytime.
the great captain. I hope the captain gets the job down City Hall because we need a friend
It's
somewhere.
going to be busy.
But Keith O'Pallick, 24-year vet and second grade detective. Good luck in your retirement.
Thank you,
And hopefully everyone go out and buy Selfish Party. How can they get this book?
It's on Amazon. It's coming out on hardcover shortly. It's on paperback, and you can download it on your Kindle.
How is it doing, by the way? Is it doing
It's doing well. I mean, it's surprisingly, I punted it out there, if you would, this
Beautiful.
year when I was off, and sales are doing better than I expected. So,
Do you have a website? Do you have a personal website?
not for the book, no.
After this show is aired, I'm sure it'll be a bestseller, New York Times bestseller. But Keith O'Pallick, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you,
Joe
Kevin.
Diamond as well.
Joe.
Folks, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to Cop Talk You could also follow us on all social media, from X to Instagram, and usually Ed gives this speech, but we're out there with social media. You could also follow us on X at Cop Talk WABC. That's at Cop Talk WABC. Until next time, God bless you, God bless America, God bless law enforcement throughout the world, and also God bless our U.S. military. Thank you. Stay safe.
This is Cop Talk.